They banished me to table 7 at the graduation I paid for, so I canceled their $32,000 vacation. There is a specific, hollow kind of humiliation reserved for the man who buys the banquet hall, pays for the prime rib, and is then asked to sit near the swinging kitchen doors so the deadbeat, who contributed nothing, can take the seat of honor. It is a quiet violence. It doesn't leave a bruise, but it rearranges your entire understanding of your own life in a matter of seconds. I felt that shift happen on a warm Saturday evening in June. Standing in the foyer of the Oak Ridge Country Club, staring at a seating chart written in elegant, swirling calligraphy. The chart was displayed on a gilded easel. It was beautiful. I knew it was beautiful because I had paid the calligrapher $600 to make it. And right there, at the very top, listed for the head table, Leo, the graduate, Sarah, mother, and Greg, father. My name, David, was listed at table 7. Table 7 was located in the back corner of the room, flanked by a drafty air conditioning vent and the double doors where the waitstaff rushed in and out with trays of food. I was seated with Sarah's great-aunt Mildred, who was legally deaf, and 2 of Leo's distant cousins who I had met exactly twice in my life. I stood there for a long time, letting the ambient noise of the cocktail hour wash over me, the clinking of champagne flutes, the forced laughter of extended family, the upbeat jazz playing from the corner. It all sounded like it was happening underwater. I had been in Leo's life for exactly 10 years. I stepped in when he was 8 years old, a quiet kid with bruised knees and a profound fear of abandonment. His biological father, Greg, had recently moved to Florida to pursue a startup opportunity, which was the family's polite translation for abandoning his responsibilities, dodging child support, and maxing out credit cards. For a decade, I was the one who woke up at 5 a.m. to drive Leo to travel baseball tournaments. I was the one who spent 3 hours a night at the kitchen table helping him wrestle with AP calculus. I paid for the braces that straightened his teeth. I bought the reliable, used Honda Civic he drove to school. I funded the $529 college savings plan that would ensure he could attend the state university in the fall without drowning in debt. Greg, on the other hand, was the fun dad. He was a phantom who materialized twice a year, usually around Christmas and Leo's birthday, armed with a flashy, inappropriate gift he couldn't afford and a mouth full of promises he would never keep. He was charming, handsome, and entirely untethered from reality. And yet, to Sarah and her family, Greg was a tragic hero. He was a misunderstood free spirit doing his best. Whenever I brought up the financial strain or the emotional toll of Greg's broken promises, Sarah would give me a look of deep, patronizing disappointment. "David, he's his real father," she would say softly, as if those words were a magic spell that erased my thousands of hours of labor and hundreds of thousands of dollars of investment. "You knew he had a dad when you married me." I knew, but I didn't know I was expected to be an ATM wrapped in the skin of a husband. "David, what are you doing out here? The grand entrance is in 5 minutes." I turned. Sarah was walking toward me. She looked stunning in a navy silk dress, her hair professionally styled, another expense I had happily covered so she could feel beautiful on her son's big day. "I was just looking at the seating chart, Sarah," I said. My voice was completely flat. She followed my gaze to the gilded easel. A flicker of something crossed her face. Guilt, maybe, or just the annoyance of being caught. She reached out and touched my arm, offering a placating, practiced smile. "Oh, honey, I know. I'm sorry about the seating. My mother arranged the tables this morning while you were picking up the cake." She felt very strongly that Leo needs to have his biological parents flanking him for the photos. It's a traditional thing. You understand, right? "Table 7, Sarah," I said quietly. "I'm at the back of the room with your deaf aunt." Sarah's smile tightened into a thin line of irritation. "David, please, do not do this right now. Don't be selfish on Leo's big day. Greg flew all the way up here for this. He's emotional. Leo is emotional. Can you just put your ego aside for 2 hours and let my son have a perfect graduation?" My son, not our son. Never our son when the cameras were flashing or the milestones were being celebrated. Only our son when the tuition bill arrived. I looked at her, really looked at her. I realized, in that stark, fluorescent-lit moment, that she did not love me. She loved the infrastructure I provided. She loved the safety net, the paid-off mortgage, the premium health insurance, and the ability to play the role of the perfect suburban mother without ever having to worry about the math behind it. I wasn't a partner. I was the stagehand working in the dark so she and Greg could take their bows under the spotlight. Okay, I said. Sarah exhaled, her relief palpable. Thank you. I knew you'd understand. Go grab a drink. They're about to open the doors. She kissed my cheek and hurried back into the banquet hall. I didn't follow her. I stood in the foyer for a few more minutes, listening as the DJ announced the arrival of the graduate. The crowd erupted into applause. I walked over to the open double doors and stood in the shadows, watching. Leo walked in, beaming in his suit. Sarah was on his left, glowing. Greg was on his right, wearing a tailored linen jacket, his arm draped heavily over Leo's shoulders. Waving to the crowd as if he had just won an election, they walked directly to the head table. Dinner was served. I sat at table 7. I cut my prime rib. I smiled politely when Aunt Mildred yelled across the table to ask if it was raining outside. I drank a glass of water. I did not touch the alcohol. I needed my mind to be incredibly sharp for what I was about to do. Then came the speeches. Sarah's mother, Brenda, went first. She spoke about Leo's resilience, his bright future, and then, inevitably, turned her attention to Greg. We are so blessed to have Greg here today, she cooed into the microphone. The bond between a father and son is unbreakable, no matter the distance. Thank you, Greg, for being the guiding light in Leo's life. The room applauded. Greg stood up, looking appropriately humbled, and wiped a theatrical tear from his eye. I set my napkin on the table. I stood up, pushed my chair in, and walked out. I didn't storm out. I didn't flip a table or grab the microphone. I walked out the back doors of the country club, tipped the valet a $20 bill, and got into my truck. The drive back to the house we shared took 20 minutes. It was the most peaceful 20 minutes I had experienced in a decade. There was no internal debate. No weighing of pros and cons. The marriage was over. It had probably been over for years, but my stubborn, misplaced sense of duty had kept it on life support. Tonight, they had finally pulled the plug for me. When I got to the house, I walked straight into the master bedroom. I pulled my large hardshell suitcase from the top of the closet. I am a methodical man. I own a mid-sized logistics and supply chain management firm. Organizing chaos is what I do for a living. I packed exactly what I needed: my tailored suits, my casual wear, my essential documents, my watches, and the few heirloom items that belonged to my grandfather. Everything else, the furniture, the electronics, the framed photos of vacations I had paid for, I left right where it was. Then, I went into my home office and sat down at my computer. 2 months prior, as a graduation gift to Leo and a 40th birthday gift to Sarah, I had booked a massive 2-week European vacation. Paris, Rome, the Amalfi Coast. First-class flights on Delta, luxury suites overlooking the Mediterranean, private guided tours. The total cost was just north of $32,000. Paid entirely on my personal American Express Platinum card. I knew perfectly well that Sarah was secretly planning to invite Greg to join us for the Italian leg of the trip, under the guise of family bonding. I had found the email drafts she sent him a week ago. I logged into my airline account. I navigated to the itineraries tab. Cancel trip. The prompt asked if I was sure. It reminded me that the funds would be refunded to the original method of payment within 3 to 5 business days. Confirm cancellation. I logged into the hotel portal. Cancel booking. Confirm. Within 10 minutes, the entire European vacation ceased to exist. Next, I opened my banking portal. During our marriage, I had made one very smart decision. I never commingled my primary business income or my premarital investment accounts with our joint household checking account. I transferred exactly enough into the joint account each month to cover the mortgage, utilities, and groceries. Sarah's part-time income as a yoga instructor went into her own account, which she spent exclusively on herself. I transferred my exact half of the remaining balance in the joint checking account into my private account. I logged out. Finally, I opened my desk drawer and pulled out a manila envelope. Inside was a draft of a legal separation agreement and a petition for divorce. I had met with a family law attorney 3 months ago when the isolation in my marriage began to feel physically suffocating. I had hesitated to sign it, hoping things might change, hoping Leo's graduation might mark a new chapter for us. It did, just not the one I expected. I signed the paperwork. I left the envelope sitting in the dead center of the kitchen island, right next to the espresso machine. I walked out to the garage, loaded my suitcase into the truck, and hit the garage door button. I didn't look back at the house as I pulled out of the driveway. I didn't stay in the state. I had been negotiating a lease for a secondary office branch in Denver, Colorado, for over a year. I had delayed the expansion because Sarah didn't want to relocate and didn't want me traveling too much. I called my real estate broker from the highway, leaving a voicemail at 10:30 p.m. on a Saturday telling him I was ready to sign the commercial lease and that I would need a short-term corporate apartment in downtown Denver by Monday morning. I drove through the night. The dark, empty stretches of Interstate 70 were a balm to my soul. My phone stayed silent until 11:45 a.m. the next day. I was somewhere in Kansas, drinking black coffee at a diner, when the screen lit up. Sarah. I let it ring. It stopped, then immediately started ringing again. Then came the texts. Where are you? Did you sleep at a hotel? We looked for you at the after party. David, answer me. Did you take your clothes? What is this envelope on the counter? Are you insane? You're throwing away our marriage because you didn't get to sit at the front table? David, the travel agency just emailed me. Why did they say the Paris flights are canceled? Fix this right now. Greg already told his friends he's coming to Italy with us. I read the text as I ate my eggs. The panic in her words was entirely financial. There was no I love you, no I miss you, no let's talk about our feelings. It was pure, unadulterated terror at the sudden realization that the bank had just closed its doors. I didn't block her number. I needed the written documentation for the divorce proceedings. But I did mute her. The only reply I sent was a single, factual statement. All communication regarding the dissolution of the marriage, the sale of the property, and the division of assets will go through my attorney. His contact information is in the envelope. Greg can pay for Italy. I turned the phone over and finished my breakfast. The divorce was ugly, but not on my end. Sarah fought tooth and nail to claim a portion of my business. But my lawyer was ruthless and the corporate firewall I had built years ago held strong. She demanded alimony, claiming she had sacrificed her career to raise a child I had entirely financed. The judge awarded her a minimal, short-term rehabilitative support package and ordered the immediate sale of the house. I heard through the grapevine that the family turned on Greg within 2 months. Once my money was gone, Greg was expected to step up and pay for Leo's college tuition and the daily expenses. Unsurprisingly, Greg suddenly found a once-in-a-lifetime business opportunity in Nevada and vanished again, leaving Sarah to downsize into a small apartment and max out her credit cards just to keep up appearances. It's been 2 years since I drove out of that country club parking lot. I live in Denver now. The mountains are cold, the air is clean, and the business is thriving. My apartment is quiet. There is no one here demanding I subsidize their delusions. There is no one here asking me to make myself smaller so someone else can feel big. Last week, I received a text from an unknown number. It was Leo. Hey David, Mom said you moved to Colorado. Just wanted to say I miss you. College is hard. Dad hasn't called in 6 months. Could we talk sometime? I stared at the message for a long time. I felt a twinge of sorrow for the boy. I really did. But I also knew that if I opened that door, even a crack, the ghosts of the past 10 years would rush right back in. I had spent a decade trying to buy my way into a family that never wanted me. Only what I could provide. I didn't reply. I deleted the message, put my phone in my pocket, and went out for a walk in the snow. For the first time in my life, I was exactly where I wanted to be. And I didn't owe anyone a damn thing.